the most magical podcast on earth. Joining me, I have Alexis Soto. What's up, Alexis?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, you're here. We're all here. We're all, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. 2020 is such a fascinating year. Like, honestly, when you're talking about, like, the 2000s and all that stuff, like 2010s, 2001 through 19 is probably going to be yay thick in the history books, but then 2020 is going to come around, that chapter, and that chapter is going to be a freaking Harry Potter novel. In terms, okay, so let's do a head count of what's happened in this history. First of all, we're in a fucking pandemic. Like, that's crazy enough. But we're also in the midst of a civil war.
Yeah.
This is crazy. The 2020, what a year to be alive.
Well, it's, as I've been, discussing this with Peter and Moreno on Red Spotlight, if you look at all the things that have happened this year, it's crazy. We literally rang in the new year with the specter of nuclear war with Iran. That's how we rang in the year.
New decade.
Oh, well, okay. Well, yeah. I mean, yes, we entered the new decade, but it is also entering a new year, which is 2020. And this is how we began 2020, which was like, oh, yeah, we might go to war with Iran because, this year and that there.
But it turns out America is at war with itself.
Yeah, I mean, the pandemic, which is still going on, and what's worse about it is that most people have chosen to ignore that it exists any longer. So that's going to get into a snowball effect and get so much worse. The pandemic also affected the economy, and we may be in the beginning of a new depression, which, yay, that's something.
Yay!
Yeah, and of course the racial tensions and the divisiveness going on. I like to include the collapse of Bernie Sanders in there as the collapse of hope itself. So a lot of bad things have happened this year.
But on the plus side, Disney is opening on July 17th.
Yeah, and I mean,
mark your calendars, everyone.
Yeah, we should get our calendars. But for as much as it's been a bad year for the world, it's not been a great year for any of us. For one, we were all robbed of our Disney dream destination.
Yes, we were planning a fucking big trip. I honestly, I made a mistake. The whole coronavirus coming to the US, you could blame it all on me because I said that we're planning a Disney trip this year, and that pretty much screwed the whole entire nation over because God forbid I announce anything and anything comes to fruition. Fucking shit.
That seems to be a curse.
So I guess I'll keep my lips shut next time something happens.
I mean, the devastation is just it just
wait. Donald Trump will lose. No, he will win. He will win this election. And he will run another 4 years. There, hopefully that casts the seeds to the universe, and the fate and all that good stuff. So hopefully it'll make a turn. Wink, wink.
Hopefully that was convincing enough for the universe, since it takes joy in doing the opposite of what we would events to happen.
You should do that too.
Well, that's what happened.
Except for Peter. No, wait, definitely Peter, because he's a freaking soothsayer and shit like that. He's a creepy little guy with the freaking hood, and he's telling me to, warning me about the Ides of March.
Right. Well, I feel that's worked for me in other occasions, in particular when it comes to predicting Best Picture. Every time that I've publicly made either an endorsement or a prediction, that's never ever been the case. One hilarious time was with 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri. I I did a Twitter endorsement, and guess what? It fucking lost. But on the flip side, I dared not even bother to endorse or say Parasite. Even though I did say I'd like for it to win, I never was like on the record about it, I guess, through that overt of a public means. And then that ended up winning Best Picture. So you see how you have to like wrinkle the universe to get it to do what you want?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
just a tad bit. It's so funny. Like, I remember how distraught you were. I mean, because
that's not doing it justice, man. That's not doing it justice. You need to use a more extreme term than that.
I'm putting it lightly over the
That's
La La
too
Land.
lightly. No, that's too lightly. It still hurts, man. That was a public humiliation unlike anything I've ever experienced. Because it's like you get a little bit of validation, and then it just ends up being like an anal rape in disguise.
Oh, jeez.
That's how bad it was. That's how bad I felt.
His words, not mine.
Well, I mean, that I'm trying to describe how bad it felt.
Okay, I'm not going to touch that.
Don't, because La La Land already did. Let's not go back to that wound.
Ow.
It is one. But I wanted to say this just for people who are listening. It's not that it's been a bad year, like in general. And I'm sure everyone has experienced this. But like all of us have had our lives disrupted immensely by this pandemic.
Yeah, I'm working twice as hard now.
I'm out of work entirely. It seems for the rest of the year because I was a teacher, and well, that's done. And you were also a teacher as well, part-time sub. Yeah, and that's done.
Good thing I had something else though. Honestly, this is my secondary job that I have is fueling my vinyl collection.
I mean, that's a plus.
So a Disney Plus.
Speaking of Miss Disney herself, she told me that she dropped $600 on online shopping in the first weeks of the pandemic. So that's how bad things have gotten.
And that was just the first week. And Peter is just he's Peter. Yeah. Yeah. Let's address some things before we get started with everything like that. Right now going on is protests going on in regards to Black Lives Matter, and I want to, because you guys got to do your whole spiel the night the lights went down in the White House, which good reference. That's probably one of my favorite titles that you created, because I'm not a
Do you get the reference though? Do you know where it came from?
Yeah, it's Reba. It's a Reba McEntire reference, which is fitting because a redneck is in charge of the country right now. But
I feel that's too kind of a word for him. Continue.
It's because, truth be told, on the record, your titles, it's hit or miss for me personally. It's hit or miss for me, but I was like, I like that title. So you guys had your whole entire ordeal on Red Spotlight Entertainment. I want to come out and say that I endorse Black Lives Matter. And for those who are saying that this is a political statement, it is not. Shouldn't Black Lives Matter? I mean,
right?
No shit, right? I completely endorse it. Black lives do in fact matter. It's preposterous that racism still exists, and that like today in the morning in Georgia, the freaking KKK went out to protest against out in the public with no disruptancies, unlike the people who are protesting for Black Lives Matter. They came out and they did their whole thing, and it's just preposterous that, first of all, the KKK still exists. Also, secondly, it's preposterous that we are no better than we were I'm gonna. I'm going to put it, in a way that we'll put it prospectively. I don't think we're any better off than we were in the 1890s, 1880s. I don't think we've progressed as a country in terms of like that front. And honestly, like it's so shitty, and I feel bad that the system is so against this group of people, and the systemic system needs to be dismantled and refigured out. Democrats aren't going to do shit about it. Republicans definitely aren't going to do shit about it. And it is a shame. And honestly, this is where like the people, honestly, with the people that have come out, I've become proud of this country again. In terms of like the people who live in it, because with the whole COVID-19 thing, I was just seeing idiots after idiots after idiots coming out and just being the shittiest of people. But with this whole entire Black Lives Matter thing, I feel a sense of pride. I'm like, this is what this country is supposed to be. People coming together in a one unified cause for the greater good of humanity. And I think that is inspiring. But that's not to say that this whole thing is not stemmed in utterly the most evil, because this whole thing, I mean, it started off with a cop killing an innocent man trying to buy groceries, and that was it. That was it, because they thought that the $20 bill that he was trying to pay for the groceries was a counterfeit. And of course, the Karen screamed out to the police, and the police killed the man. I don't think that is right. I don't think, and this is not the first example of it, but George Floyd is the straw that broke the camel's back. And to see the way that people are going out of the way to make this and his name and everything like that. I mean, the list goes on of everybody who's been crushed under the systemic failures of this country. But the thing that really stands out is the people that have come out and supported this, raised bail funds for people out there in Minneapolis or across the nation, and it's not just the United States that's doing this. Like Rome had their big thing, Paris, Spain, every country is unified with this. And honestly, the voice of George Floyd, the man in question, his voice is being heard. Kanye West, of all people, I always thought, oh, he's so egotistical and all this stuff, and I was like, holy shit, he pretty much gave his daughter a full ride tuition for college and everything like that. Mitt Romney, I was like, it's so amazing how like Mitt Romney once in a while comes out and does the bare minimum and yet excels over all the Democrats. Mitt Romney 2020, yo. There's other things that are, I mean, obviously, like name figures like Chrissy Teigen and Brie Larson and just a bunch of different names have donated and did their part for doing the Sesame Street held a town hall on CNN, and I honestly, like, this is some of the best things that are coming out of it, but again, it's not gonna be resolved until we get to the root of the problem, which is racism. And I think that racism is a huge problem in this country that needs to be crushed. And also, it is not only just racism, but the brute force of the police force in this nation, I think it needs to go. I think the Minneapolis is doing a good thing. They're pretty much raising public safety over police, over policing, and I think that is a great thing that's happening, and I think that should be enforced around the nation, not just here, not just in Minneapolis or, you know, LA, because right now LA is in the middle of doing something like that as well. But it is, I think that this is a good step in the right direction. We have a lot of work to do, but honestly, it is a good chunk of a start. Like if you were to talk about like carving and making something like that, you just chiseled a huge chunk to make your sculpture. And this is what's happening. The sculpture is being built, and I'm seeing that. I mean, progress. I mean, it's just been 2 weeks. 2 weeks since this whole thing started. And so much progress has been made already. Fucking the TV show Cops was canceled. Because of that, the NASCAR, much to half of their fan base, they're not showing the Confederate flag anymore, which, like, honestly, it's like embarrassing that it's taken this long, but still baby steps, I guess. The military, they're banning the use of the Confederate flag and any other circumstance. They should work on banning the Punisher logo as well, because the people who use the Punisher logo is much part of the problem of this. But honestly, I think that this is where there is light, there's dark, and there's definitely darkness that is seated in what's happening right now in this country. But honestly, protest away. For those who are complaining about them doing it peacefully, they are doing it peacefully. The media isn't showing you that. They're doing it peacefully, and the cops are just charging at them with tear gas and all that shit. Look on Twitter to find your news, not on CNN or anything like that. Also, another key point. What was I going to say? I don't know. I forgot. But the point is that there's a lot of work to be done. Donate if you can to different places. There's definitely links. Go search it up on Twitter, you know, anywhere. Everybody's pretty much sharing all the links, so Twitter has me covered in that regard. But like, sign the petitions and everything like that. This is a good start.
I want to add, go ahead, Kyle, I'm sorry, finish your thought you were done.
But there's a lot of work to be done. Go on. There is
so much work to be done, and I want to add some context here by one of the great scholars of our time, Dr. Cornel West, who I reference quite often, and I want to plug him, and because he's one of those people that you can listen to him speak and talk, and you're just so entranced with him. He did a podcast with Joe Rogan, I think 8 months ago, and not to promote Joe Rogan, but just to say that if you want to get a real idea of who this man is, Cornel West lays it all out there, and he talks about so much about, human decency and kindness and sweetness and what we need and what we're lacking, that I want to plug that in because I'm going to quote him right now about what he said about these protests. I thank God, is what he said, there are people out in the streets, because imagine if a public lynching like this happened, referencing to George Floyd's murder, and people didn't care and no one did anything about it. That's what's amazing, is that people care and are so moved by a great injustice to go out there in the middle of a pandemic, no less. That is a cause worthy of protesting, not the other people that wanted a haircut or wanted to, go to a movie or some shit. Like, that's...
You see, that's my America. That's my America, like, just standing up for what's fucking right. That I think that right there is the most, like, most decent thing and all that stuff. And also for the, I remember what I was going to say now. For those like, the peaceful protests, why are you protesting and all that stuff? And, why is the riots and all that stuff? First of all, when Colin Kaepernick did the kneeling to show the systemic racism of this thing, everybody's like, man, you can't do that. And you're pretty much silencing the voice that he had. Yeah. And now because of that bottled up repression that everybody's been feeling, especially within the last 4 years, you're getting the blowback of that. So if you listen to Colin way back when he started doing that, your targets and your other stuff wouldn't be freaking burned and all that stuff. Also, for those who are like, oh, why you burn down a Target and all that stuff, what media wants to show you is a Target burned down and everything like that, burnt to a crisp. What everybody else shows you on internet and everything like that is the merchandise from Target being donated to homeless shelters and to feed some of the protesters and to feed some of the people homeless. I think that is incredibly American, Yeah. And I think that is something that you should take a note before you say that the protests are violent and all that stuff. If anything, it should be your own damn fault that the protests are happening right now. But honestly, this needed to happen, and I'm glad it's happening this year in the turn of the decade.
And to see how much attitudes have changed. When Colin Kaepernick first took a knee to the national anthem, a lot of people had no idea about what that was for, and they hated him for doing that, which is really stupid because if these people, a lot of people unfortunately don't know what the Constitution actually says and the freedom of speech and the freedom of expression, right? That's his right as an American to do so. You're not mandated to stand for the national anthem. And it said so much about our culture that many people were much more outraged at somebody taking a knee at the national anthem than young black men being gunned down at the hands of police brutality on the streets every single day, including Barack Obama, I might add. When Colin Kaepernick was first doing that, he went on the record, I think there was an article on Politico where he said that Colin is disrespecting the families of the military. And that shows you just how out of touch every politician of any party is at, which of course wasn't as bad when Trump became president and called them sons of bitches, and that made the whole situation even worse. But they hijacked the whole issue from Black Lives Matter to the national anthem. And it was so weird. And then what you're saying also, just to be clear, is the conflation by the corporate media to lump together the violent rioters and the peaceful protesters and showing you nothing but defaced vandalism, buildings that are being burned down. That's all they're showing you. And they're not showing you anywhere near a tenth of the countless videos that you saw on Twitter all throughout the weekends of police behaving like animals and beating up American civilians as if they were cattle. It was brutal. It was disgusting. It made your stomach churn and you wanted to throw up, and yet the corporate media didn't show you that at all. The only thing they showed you, because they used it as a way to attack Trump, was when, rightfully so, I might add, was when he threw tear gas and rubber bullets at peaceful protesters in front of the White House just so he could walk across Lafayette Park to do a photo op with a Bible in front of a church for no discernible reason.
That he was holding upside down.
2 Corinthians.
In the book of the Bible, 2 Corinthians, you heard of it. Fucking ridiculous. We have a fucking orangutan as president.
But the point should be made is all of us stand in solidarity with Black Lives Matter. We support them. We support their cause. And we don't care if you don't like us talking about this. We care about this, and we feel that everyone should care about this, So even though it is politics, it's a human issue, and we care.
No, here's the thing. I hate when people say, "Oh, it's politics and all this stuff." This ain't politics. This is human lives, motherfuckers.
I mean, I agree with you.
Get with it. It's not.
I agree with you, but I just feel that people have to be told time and time again, hey, stop thinking that we live in a world absent of politics.
Right.
Or issues that can be political. I mean, learn. Get some perspective. Care. One of the things that I've been talking about in the last few weeks, whether it be COVID or Black Lives Matter, is the lack of empathy that a lot of people are showing. And to add on what you were saying, Kyle, earlier about how things really haven't improved much since the 1800s, Alexis Moreno and I just did a review on Ava DuVernay's documentary film 13th, which beautifully illustrates why you are so right when it comes to that. Because so many people in this country would be shocked to know that the standard of living of many black people in this country really hasn't improved. Because time and time again, after a milestone reform that seemingly gives them more freedoms, a group of racist people come up and bring them back down under the guise of whether it be poll taxes or Jim Crow or mass incarceration. There's always an excuse to keep black people down by a certain group of people in this country. Go watch 13th by Ava DuVernay. It's one of the best documentary films I've ever seen. It's great.
Right. So on with the news. It's not much. Just the fact that the parks are planning to be reopened again. And a couple of voices within the Disney community have spoken upon BLM. So I want to first get on to John Boyega, because he had he had something. He spoke out in solidarity with Black Lives Matter, and even led a protest or two. And I think that was completely badass. And this is the missing arc that Finn was missing in episode 9. Like, dude, can you imagine? Like, honestly, we talk about Rise of Skywalker like constantly, but like, this should have been Finn's arc in the movie, like him taking freaking stormtroopers and leading it into that, and they could have like had a revolution in that regard, but no, they gave him they made him scream Rey 10,000 times during the movie, and that was all his character amounted to. Oh, he has the Force ? And that was it. But yeah, what do you think about the whole John Boyega thing? I think that was really inspiring, and also Lucasfilms endorsed it too, which I think was really nice too.
No, I think it's great. I mean, he obviously cares very much about this issue, him being a black man, and he was very vocal on social media even before the whole George Floyd thing happened, dealing with racist fans and kind of telling them to go fuck themselves. So look, I appreciate John Boyega's candidness, and I also appreciate, the risk that entails with that. A lot of people in the industry are not as vocal as they otherwise would like to be because of industry standards and because of industry politics. Mm-hmm. I know one of the things that I keep looking at on social media in another issue is a lot of LGBT actors don't publicly come out because they know it's going to affect their career and the kind of roles they're going to be offered and the kind of roles they're going to be excluded from. Yeah. So a lot of them just don't even do a public thing because it'll just affect their career. So yeah, Boyega took a big ass risk, but it just so happened that I think it's paying off because everybody is universally praising him as they should be. And it's a great way to raise his profile. So yeah, good all around.
Even to where Lucasfilm went out and said, "Hey, we stand with John Boyega." Also, speaking of Star Wars, a little bit of Star Wars thing. Somebody, like one of the there was a protest, I guess, near I think it's Shelby. It's somewhere off of Burbank, and it's Skywalker Ranch. It's where Lucasfilm headquarters are. And the famous Yoda statue that's in front of Lucasfilm was tagged with "Matters Black Lives Do" underneath the Yoda statue. And number one, it's real. It wasn't photoshopped or anything like that. And Lucasfilm has declared that it is gonna stay for as long as it needs to. They're not gonna do away with it. And also Disney, they came out and like all the profiles and all that stuff said that they stand with Black Lives Matter. So I think that's another good thing too. However, it is kind of embarrassing that they only contributed to, in terms of donations, only 5 million, when I know like they could definitely fork over more. One of the directors of the highest grossing films of last year, Star Wars The Last Jedi, J.J. Abrams, I mean, it's only 10 million. I'm pretty sure he could donate more, but it's kind of embarrassing that J.J. Abrams donated 10 while Disney as a company donated 5 million. I don't know how you feel about that, Alexis.
You know, it's the same way I feel about any other situation with corporations. You know, because of the standards of our culture, we don't really expect them to do much, and when they do the bare minimum, they're praised for it because, hey, you did something, so yay. The fact that they're willing to give anything, I think is a good thing, but I don't think any of us really appreciate, or at least perhaps the industry itself and the corporate media don't do a good enough job of really illustrating how much capital and wealth these behemoths really have. And they could be doing so and so much more. I mean, granted, of course, Disney has been losing $30 million a day ever since COVID-19 has happened, but you're still Disney.
Yeah.
And the executives are still taking as much as they can. I think that's what we lose sight of, is that even when this whole COVID thing began, a lot of executives from many of these companies who were given basically bailouts yet again, took most of that money for themselves, as if they didn't already have enough to like last their entire lifetime. So it's a fundamentally broken system that I would like to see, have a lot of, structural reform into. But putting that to the side, I mean, all you can say about it is that good that they did something at all. Of course, it's not good enough, but I mean, I didn't really expect anything otherwise, so I'm at the point where I really expect nothing. And in this case, not really that disappointed. So take the W. I mean, that's all I got to say.
Yeah. Trending Twitter is the Ride Song of the South, and a lot of people are talking.
Oh God, that really
song of the yeah.
I've been seeing that Splash Mountain shit like today, and I'm like, people are acting as if like that's a new idea. It's been around for years.
Yeah,
this idea,
restructuring it to different things. I mean, there's one idea that I find really nice, and that's retheming it to Princess and the Frog.
But that's the one that because I know that years ago, when Screen Junkies movie fights was a thing, so that's a flashback in and of itself. But when that was like practically at its height, they had a Disney show, a Disney-themed movie fights, and Sarah Sterling was on there, and she was the one that I think gave that idea the biggest broadcast, which is to retheme Splash Mountain from the Song of the South apparel to the Princess and the Frog, which is nice, although I don't know if that's strictly necessary, because as somebody in this new generation and as somebody who's never even heard of Song of the South when I first rode Splash Mountain, which was years ago.
You haven't heard of the tale of Uncle Remus?
No, years ago when I first went on Splash Mountain, I didn't know what the theming was. It just felt like an original, one of those Disney original shoots that didn't like was not based off in any kind of intellectual property. So I feel like it's already so far removed from that movie to where it's like there's almost like no association with
I think the problem is that it does have that taint with it.
It's the name.
It's the name.
It's the name. It comes from that movie.
Splash Mountain and Briar Rabbit and all that stuff. It's very much a good portion of that movie, and it does have the taint of Song of the South, which I'm pretty sure everybody just wants it to, just to be forgotten, which I find very dangerous. But I wouldn't be opposed of, okay, I adding Song of the South with the discrepancies and the disclaimers and all that stuff to Disney Plus will be a good thing, I think, if that ever happens, which I doubt, but I think that that will be a good thing. However, I think like in terms of like ride and its like staying power, I mean, let's be honest, Splash Mountain is just a spit away from New Orleans Square, so it won't be that far of a stretch to make it into an extension of that and just turn Critter Country into Pooh Corner and just call it that.
Are you saying to retheme? Oh, you mean the rest of Critter Country, which would be the Winnie the Pooh Dark Ride and the Hungry Bear, into Pooh Corner.
Yeah.
And then Splash Mountain would be practically an extension of New Orleans Square.
Yeah.
I think I can do you one better. Although it would dramatically shorten Pooh Corner. And I'm not talking about getting rid of Winnie the Pooh. That's a great ride. You think you also have the perfect venue. If you're going to retheme Splash Mountain to the Princess and the Frog, you have an amazing venue. In Hungry Bear, you can turn that into Tiana's Palace from the movie. And it's literally on the water by the rivers of America. Like, that's perfect theming right there.
Yeah.
And it's a huge space as well. So,
because it's been a while. I don't know the geography these days. The Thunder Railroad, that's part of Frontierland, correct?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. I was gonna say, and all that stuff, but no, it's all part of it. Those are a good idea too.
If you want to retheme it, it's there, and it wouldn't be that difficult, it would seem. I think it would be a nice update. You bring a new, I think, fan base into Splash Mountain. The ride mechanism wouldn't change. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but at the same time, I'm not exactly clamoring for it because I do love the novelty of it. I do love the animatronics. I think this was, if I'm not mistaken, one of Tony Baxter's babies. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure if this was announced, I don't think there'd be too much of an uproar about it. Although, that being said, what happens to Zippity Doo Dah Zippity Day, which is kind of the song that is used in, of course, the...
You have a better song. Going down the bayou.
Going down.
They have Mama Odie in the corner and don't matter what you look like.
Yeah, but that is a big change though, because like to me, Zippity Doo Dah Zippity Day is far more synonymous as a Disney Parks item than it is a Disney Movies item. So that would be, I think, for me, the biggest thing to let go of. But again, things change. It's fine.
Plus, it's a genuinely good song. Zippity Doo Dah. Going to the Laughing Place and all that stuff. That is very classic, iconic Disney Splash Mountain. So there, from the hardcore Disney community, I could see there being an uproar about it. But again, I think that because I honestly, I think that Princess and the Frog has like upped its ante in terms of like the fan culture and its cult following. And
well, I should hope so. It's been over 10 years.
Yeah. I think it's made its impact on its lasting factor. So I think that there won't be too much, especially those who grew up in the 2000s and all that shit. So, yeah, where are they gonna remove? Oh, part of the ride is part of the Disneyland Railroad too.
Yeah,
it's gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna be really interesting if it does like shift to that direction, if that decision is ever made. It's gonna be really interesting to see. Huh. You know, I'm honestly liking this idea because I'm not overly fond of like changing things that have like made its impact of the iconic status of Disney properties. But I wouldn't mind the shift of Princess and the Frog. I'll miss Zippity Doodah, but again, I'll just go on the freaking Spotify and listen to the original Splash Mountain soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
I'll still have the water. I'll still have the logs and all that stuff. I mean, you could do that. Yeah. Speaking of Disneyland is planning to open, which holy shit is that freaking, they got their blinders on like nobody's business. I feel. No, I mean, we've talked about it. We talked about it opening, the eventual reopening of it. I think it's far too soon, them opening.
What were the dates? Today they announced some dates, right? Do you know what they were?
Yeah, well, Disneyland is opening on the 17th of July, with Downtown Disney opening on July 9th, and the Grand Californian Hotel and Spa with Paradise Pier is July 23rd. Just in time for the 4th of July. This is literally freaking Jaws. This is a Jaws situation. They're going back. They're opening up the beaches, just in time.
It's funny you bring up that movie because I was just rewatching it last week, and I had to turn it off.
It was giving you anxiety from just like knowing.
Yeah,
it's too relevant.
It's too relevant because I wasn't even thinking in the context of Disney. I was just thinking in the context of everyone right now, in response to the pandemic. I mean, it should be stated that all of the economies all over the U.S. are reopening simultaneously. And I just saw a headline today that Texas had 3 consecutive days of record number of hospitalizations due to COVID-19 because they were one of the first states to open and reopen aggressively. So I feel the writing is very much on the wall, and it has been. And when you say that Disney has some big blinders on, I mean, part of them, yeah, they're desperate, but you're right, though, because this whole idea of opening up a theme park, even at a certain kind of capacity, like, to me, I find it troubling because there's no way you can prevent it from resulting in more people getting sick and infected with COVID-19, especially since this problem hasn't gone away. Last time I checked, over 110,000 people and counting are dead because of COVID-19. Over 2 million people in America have the virus.
Okay, if the country was in less numbers, like, let's just say we're down to 53 cases.
If we were in the right direction, even.
Yeah. Then
not even what you were saying, but let's say we were in the right direction, that would be a different story.
Recovery.
We're not.
I'd be like, okay, yeah, you could start opening and all that stuff as long as you make precautionary measures and all that stuff. But we are not. We are vastly.
That's just unprepared. It's not acknowledging reality. We're going up in number of cases. We're going to go, up. But up. Literally, we're going up in the number of deaths, like the hospitalizations, like, and then of course asymptomatic cases. Like, this shit isn't anywhere close to being done or handled. Like, maybe the rate at which people are dying has slowed some, but it's still going up, and consistently, I might add.
We're at the
I think
we're at the epicenter where we live.
Well, to be clear, I feel that on average, we're losing about 10,000 people a week to COVID-19. That's a big fucking deal.
Yeah.
10,000 people a week.
And this shit still isn't being taken seriously. It's just it's mind blowing how, like, almost, I wouldn't say satanic, cultish. No, stupid. That's too broad of a term.
I would consider capitalism to be a cult of sorts, so it could be that. It's it's just about, I feel. Excuse me.
Oh God, no. Oh no.
Fuck you.
Guys, we're going down swinging.
My throat got dry. I said this to Peter. I feel like it's more about following the leader. Because
the leader. I gotta tie it in with Disney.
Every business, I feel, began to reopen their doors after seeing everybody else. When you see other people that are opening, it creates a snowball effect, a domino effect, if you will. And everybody just like follows the line because they see them opening and they think, oh, it's okay. We won. We beat the terrorists. Let's get back to the economy. I think listeners of our podcasts should know that there are no bounds to the ignorance and stupidity of the American people. And whether we like it or not, and whether or not we go out of our way to even say it, every single episode of any podcast ends up bumping into, oh yeah, society is stupid and vapid, and it's collapsing. Because of situations like this. If you can't think for yourself and see how bad things are, maybe you don't deserve to survive. That's how bad things are. And that would be okay if not for the fact that this virus doesn't operate like that. And that people who are otherwise doing what they're supposed to might inadvertently contract the virus because of other moronic people out there who are not doing the basic thing when it comes to even wearing a mask. Yeah. And bringing this back to Disney, Kyle.
And not just that, for those who are wearing a mask, it goes over your nose.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, bringing this back to Disney. I don't know, and we talked about this, I feel, with Moreno on a previous episode on Red Spotlight. I don't understand I feel so bad for those cast members because, you have to enforce the mask wearing policy. It's not a choice. And knowing how many people have reacted across the country, it's going to become a point of contention. Like, that's how far removed. You see, this is how, like, the discussion gets pushed in the wrong direction by conservative-minded people. The problem isn't that the parks are open in the first place to them. The problem is that, oh, I can't be bothered to wear a mask because I care more about the magic than I care about the people that are next to me that might get sick or die. That's the truth. That's the reality. And we're not even discussing whether or not it should be. I think you and I are in agreement. They shouldn't open because people are going to get sick and people are going to die. And in a similar vein as how movie theaters are seemingly hell-bent on reopening in the middle of July to accompany Tenet and everything, I feel that's going to blow up in everybody's faces. No one's really making money right now anyway. You're bleeding profits because you're opening at a certain capacity. Not many people are going to go out right now. People who have been, laid off because they refuse to go back to their place of work.
And when they do, when people do decide to come out, it's going to get worse and you're going to be closed down a lot more. You see, okay, here's the thing. Here's the thing. If people followed the rules and knew what to do and were prepared and not friggin' selfish as hell, this country would be back at opening within 3 months tops. That's just a fact. But the fact that people aren't, and they just can't stand the cabin fever, you know, you would not have this cabin fever thing for too long if you just followed the rules. But it's like telling a kid not to shove a crayon up their nose, and they do it anyway. And what happens is that because they didn't listen, they're probably going to have to go to the doctor. The doctor's probably going to have to take out the crayon. It's just a mess. This is like, I don't know what's up with, you know, people not listening to this. The economy would not be so bad if people listened, you know, and people were prepared. Look at fucking New Zealand. 43 they were closed for 43 days tops. And that country is doing so much fundamentally better than we are, because they were prepared, because they took the precautionary measure, because they fucking listened, you know?
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, at the beginning of this whole thing in March, and people listened, we would already be in better conditions by now.
Yeah, it's a mess all around, and this situation with Disney, and we discussed this on a previous episode about all the precautions they're taking, some of which are still not known, but I would feel a lot better if there was some kind of contraption where you can detect not just if somebody has a fever, because I don't really feel that does anything at all. You need some kind of device where you can detect people who have it, period. People who are asymptomatic. People who have the virus but don't experience the symptoms. Because all the precautions that are in place to prevent sick people from coming into the park doesn't guarantee that people who have COVID are not going to get into the park. That's going to happen. It's a fact.
You know how, like, there's, like, metal detectors and all that shit? Like, I wonder if you could use infrared technology to determine whether you have COVID or not. And, like, have, and have a detector like that. I think, but even then, like, the machines could be faulty because you won't be experiencing any symptoms, so it'll probably be hard to detect. So it's pretty much a faulty system to begin with. I don't know. Like,
the tech isn't there to do that. It's not. So it's not advised to do this. No, I think what's even more asinine on top of this is they really haven't learned at all from their previous oversight, and that was they got a lot of shit for how they chose to make an event out of Disney World closing in Florida with, you know, crowds, hundreds of thousands of people, like, you know, shoulder to shoulder, right when, you know, coronavirus is already spreading. And they were so criticized for turning that into an event. And, well, here it is. I have a tweet here from Eric Goldman, who basically is on the same lines as I am in terms of, like, where my mind went when they said July 17th. He says, and yes, July 17th is the 65th anniversary of Disneyland's opening, which eventizes its reopening even more, which actually doesn't sound great right now. So it's not just that they're going to open again, but they're going to go so far as to make it an event in and of itself. A reopening party on Disneyland's 65th anniversary. Too many Disney fanatics are going to run to it and completely disregard COVID-19.
Like a moth to flame. it's honestly kind of gross. It is horrendously gross. I don't know, and also all the Disney influencers and all that shit are going to be taking camera pictures and
Not all of them. I know for a fact. I saw a tweet by Ian, who is with Fresh Baked Disney, and he was saying, "Too fucking soon. I'm not going. Fuck this." So not all of them are like that, but most of them will, because that's how they make their living. A lot of them have been suffering. So like I feel like a lot of them are not going to have any choice, because that's how they make money, is they go and they vlog at Disney. Which the idea, and this is not just exclusive to them, I think it's across the board in any kind of line of work or industry. The fact that people have to feel as if they have to go to work in the middle of a pandemic is disgusting to me, and unfortunate and sad.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there anything else you wanna add to this whole thing before we continue? Or
No, I think that said all of what we needed to say. I think when this does happen, we'll be watching very closely on social media to see how it goes. We'll come back and do a podcast on here and give you our thoughts about how Disney handled it, how the crowds handled it, and then of course we'll be watching closely 2 weeks after that reopening to see, of course, how much California cases spike up in COVID-19, because many of the people who will be going to Disneyland are locals anyway. So
yeah. Another point of thing, using masks out in a Disney, Tokyo and Shanghai have been doing that already, like long before the virus was actually a thing.
That was part of their lives, I think.
Yeah, just like wear a mask, prevent germs and all that stuff. They were very precautious, so I mean, theoretically, Alexis Soto has a mask on right now.
Yeah, I'm demonstrating how to put a mask on and how to care.
Yeah, you could do a whole podcast with a mask on.
It wouldn't service the audio quality all that well.
No, it wouldn't. But if you wanted to be extra, you could. But yeah, I mean, precautionary measures and all that stuff. But it's not going to mean shit because people are dumb as fuck. So, we're gonna do that. So, yeah. Oh, unrelated. Couple of announcements and like news and all that stuff. We moved. We moved. We moved houses.
Yeah, that might be important to bring up, right?
We moved houses,
especially for the audience of the Fantasy Fair. We moved homes. We're no longer on Red Spotlight Plus. No, I'm kidding. That's not.
No, Red Spotlight Plus is our personal voodoo thing that all of us share. We just dump all of our digital copies onto Voodoo and have a gross library. We moved internet homes. We are no longer on Wooshka. We are on Castbox.fm. Reason why? I put it on the feed, an announcement of why that I shared with all the feeds on like To the Table, Bond and Beyond, Red Spotlight Entertainment, and here that we don't make a living unfortunately on this, and so we couldn't afford to keep the lights on over at Wooshka, so to speak. So we moved to Castbox, and it opened up a lot more doors, I guess, to keeping this sustainable. and Alexis is laughing. What happened?
I'm sorry. It just the screen blacked out, and I was like, "What the fuck's going on?" For like a split second, and I was like, "Oh shit! Did this whole thing just shut down?" I was panicking, and
Okay.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I saw that too. I saw your screen went black, and I was like, "Oh my god, what's happening?" Oh my god.
Yeah, we're so traumatized by years and years of like podcasting and having literally just about anything that could go wrong.
Like it's Murphy's Law and all that shit working against us. But yeah, I think this is good. This is really good. We spent a few days. They went a lot more quicker than when we moved everything from podcasts.com to Wooshka. It only took us like a grand total of 4 days?
If that, it was a lot easier to transfer the entire library of podcasts across different, 4 different shows. When we moved to Wooshka, I think we only had 3 shows, right?
Yeah, now we have, with the addition of Bon and Beyond, and plus we have more episodes that have come out since then, and a
lot more episodes. I think one of the realities as the years have gone by, in 5 years of doing these podcasts, whether it be Fantasy Fair or Red Spotlight, is the fact that the rate at which we're producing content is much greater and frequent. You're right. And especially in the pandemic, we've had, just to speak for the schedule right now, we're about to start, the whole week is booked. I'm literally going to be doing, if my math is correct, 5 podcasts now a week. The recording schedule, 5 podcasts a week.
And me when I can, because some people don't like to wake up in the morning and record then. They like to record at night. So unfortunately, I can't do a great number of podcasts that they do.
And as we've been saying, it's not really fair with you, because basically my job now is this podcast schedule, and you're an essential worker and they're working you more than ever, and availability is a bitch. Let's just be real.
Yeah. So that's that. So we're on Catsbox.fm. Bottom line.
I had a point of clarification, Kyle, because this came to mind. So originally, all of the different feeds from, let's say, Apple and Spotify, those stemmed from the original Wooshka feed. Am I correct, just to be clear with listeners, that those particular Apple and Spotify feeds that were connected to Wooshka have been taken down and have been replaced with new feeds?
No. Here's the thing.
Okay, so explain to me what happened.
So what happened was on Spotify and what's it called? On Spotify and Apple, you have the opportunity to update your RSS feed and and redirect it. Okay. So that's what I did with Apple and Spotify. So for right now, for the Fantasy Fair and Apple, on the Fantasy Fair, Red Spotlight Entertainment, Bond and Beyond, and To the Table, on Spotify and Apple, nothing has changed. If you're subscribed to that, you're still subscribed. So
I wasn't aware of that, and thank God for that, because that would have been that would have just been annoying, and for our regular listeners to find the feed have ceased or have been erased entirely.
Yeah.
I think it happened before from our original move from podcasts.com to Wooshka.
But here's the thing, I had no idea that you could update the RSS feed. I thought you just had to submit it again. So,
well, good for it then.
So we've learned since then.
Yeah, because we've moved several times, it seems like. Yeah, no, that's great.
This is our 3rd internet home, but yeah, we moved from those different locations on the
so it means that for the Apple and Spotify people, there really wasn't a difference at all. They had to do nothing.
You pretty much, there was no noticeable differences. They were just like, oh shit, why do I have 50 new episodes all of a sudden that are the episodes that I already listened to? But that was the only thing. which I think is good. Like primarily I wanted Spotify and Apple to kick it off running because those are the two most listened to devices,
platforms for podcasts.
Yeah. So I'm working on the other ones for all the other feeds. I'm working on Stitcher, Google, and TuneIn, and I'm trying to get those arranged as well. I'm not even gonna dare go back on YouTube and like change the links and all that stuff. I'm gonna change because on YouTube the way it works is that when you have your upload defaults, where it automatically has the description that you want on there automatically. I'm just gonna change the link and all that stuff when it gets to it. Right now, it's already starting to take shape. I just uploaded the announcement that we're moving to Castbox on YouTube and on Instagram today. So that's already up and running. But you and I, we were far more prepared because we already had a bulk of the library already downloaded or saved somewhere. Yeah. So we just had to upload it and all that stuff, the raw files and all that good shit. It's really interesting, like the way that it is shaped out, because I know that you did pretty much everything on Red Spotlight Entertainment and a little bit of Fantasy Fair, but like it was so interesting how like it was painless. It was almost like painless. I mean, it was just long work. It was just long work. And, but other than that, it was just like, because we've done this before. Unfortunately, but yeah, Castbox.fm is the new home for the Red Spotlight Entertainment Network. Everyone, check it and get with it. And in terms of Wooshka, if you listen to the announcement, you already know this, but for those who haven't, for Wooshka, we're staying on there until the 28th. Because I paid throughout the month just to keep it on there for Red Spotlight Entertainment only. I already deleted everything else for the Fantasy Fair and all that stuff, but just like for Red Spotlight Entertainment, it's paid for the month until it gets taken down, until I take it down on the night of the 27th. So by the 28th, it's going to be gone. So yeah, until then you could subscribe on Castbox.fm. There's a feature on Castbox that I think is really fascinating that I think we should dive into, and you could do a live podcast.
Is it?
Yeah. So I find that really fascinating. So I want to test that out one day and do something like that, and maybe that will be our main thing, because that would save a lot of time in editing. Just having a live feed of the different podcasts, and who knows, whenever we do eventually go back to the Disney parks, because there is an app that you could connect like a microphone like the one that I'm recording off right now, or your microphone, and you bring it with you, and we could record on the Castbox app. And we could do a live podcast at Disneyland if we want to. So we have that. I'm excited. This is a new era. Dawning of a new era in which Lion and Hyena come together in a great and glorious future of Red Spotlight Entertainment. I'm excited. This is good stuff. Alexis, any thoughts?
No, not really. To me, I actually quite like the interface of Castbox, and I felt that was much, in some ways, better organized. I like it. Good, and I'm happy for the feeds that were able to remain the same, that they weren't taken down, and for as little damage as possible when it comes to moving, library homes, and. But only I think the experience of because that was a pretty dark day. It kind of hit us out of nowhere, and we were kind of really sad about that.
Yeah, we were going to record that day.
Yeah, we had a whole week, and I had to cancel the whole week of recordings because that situation happened, and that, of course, took priority because I didn't want to be in a situation where we lost access and that wasn't entirely clear if we were going to lose access to all those shows. So I was just, for a while there, I was like, oh my God, did we just lose years of work? And in the process of moving that stuff over to Castbox, it's always nice to walk down memory lane of like the different kinds of iterations the show has, gone through and like how many years of material we've done.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much, it's honestly cool. Like, one of these days, if we ever have kids or anything like that, we could be like, hey, you want to, because don't you ever wonder, like, what your parents' friends talked about and all that shit? I mean,
right.
I think it'll be cool for one of these days, if we ever decide to have offspring of our own, to share with our offspring that, hey, this is what we talked about, and then our children would proceed to tell us that we're fucking nerds.
I mean, odds are we'll still be doing the podcast. I have no plans on stopping the podcast.
Yeah, we'll be like,
we do this for fun. This is what our passion is. We love to talk about these things and with each other.
It's our avenue of discussing and all that stuff. And honestly, we do have conversations like off mic.
Of course.
Yeah, but like a bulk of our conversations is in recorded form and out on the internet. So I think honestly that's fucking cool. The fact that
I love it.
The fact that a lot of our conversations are on the internet.
That, and because you're kind of in a small way, capturing a moment in time, and at any point you can go back and listen to it. What I love about these shows is, as the years have gone by and you've been listening for a while, you can see just, our growing friendship with both Alexis Moreno and Peter Martinez, both of which I don't think we would be at all in contact with if it weren't for these shows and these recordings. We wouldn't be as close friends with them as we are if it weren't for this.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely knew them, but like our budding friendship, like for Moreno, it started on 13, and I think for Peter it was like 42 or 41, somewhere around that neighborhood. No, earlier.
No, his first episode.
Yeah, on Red
his first episode was, I think it was 17.
17? Okay, so a lot earlier than I remember. Okay.
Yeah, his first appearance on Red Spotlight was X Gon' Give It To You. It was the Deadpool review.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
A lot earlier
February
than
2016.
Yeah, now Red Spotlight Entertainment is like, I don't know, 200. Like, I saw like the number of episodes that you did at the time, and it was like 342. Like, in terms of like accumulation of all the audio content on Castbox,
right?
And I think that was like, holy shit. Holy shit.
Yeah.
And like those episodes are like easily, some are like 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours tops, and you have all that bulk. So,
and in fact, last night I just recorded episode 235 of the main Red Spotlight show with Alexis Moreno.
Yeah.
235.
Oh, by the way, I have something cooking for 300. So get prepared.
Good, because we might hit it next week at the rate of which we're going. I will say, like, the one thing that I'm going to remember about this year that's a positive is this time that we're, being able to explore and do different kinds of topics and discussions for podcasts. And in particular, what I love about this year is the return of Alexis Moreno to the main Red Spotlight podcast. I think she's done wonders. I've really missed her presence on that show, and she's added so much to it that, she's contributed so much to, the commentaries that we've done. And also, of course, the Avatar series was her idea. Dedicating a whole episode to Black Lives Matter, that was her idea. She pushed for that. So, I mean, she's been a big presence.
Well, she's the mainstay to the reboot of Red Spot Entertainment as well. I mean,
yeah,
She pretty much kickstarted the dynamic that we have, still to this day. So, Alexis Moreno, you are the key.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I have nothing else to say. This episode was just a catch up episode because we haven't done an official debut episode on Castbox. So this is a good jumping off point. I got no other words. Alexis Soto, to you.
I guess we can spend maybe 2 minutes just to make sure everyone's up to date on the programming, because we talked about it real quick. So the Avatar weekly recap series. Mm-hmm. We're doing a weekly Shield series. We're calling Beyond the Shield with me and David. We're doing a weekly. We're about to wrap up. We're in the middle of our movies that made an impression on us as children series. Kyle and I have episodes left to do that. And then we have the regular weekly news podcast of Red Spotlight, and we're about to restart To the Table with Tron Month. We're going to be doing the two Tron films and then the animated series that's on Disney Plus right now for streaming. So we've got a variety of different content coming your way, and even more. So stay tuned.
Yeah. And you could catch that right under the spotlight, everyone. So, without further ado, I'm Kyle Lira, and with me is Alexis Soto, and as always, stay magical.